America wants to hear our opinions on such things. We can't just discuss it in the green room. Oh, hey, what's up,
That's true.
America? Welcome to Unscripted. Here's what we do on the show. What we do is we try to educate and entertain by discussing the news of the day. And then what I do is I interview the very best and brightest that LinkedIn has to offer about their favorite music, their favorite movies, and their favorite books. Because what we're trying to do is humanize corporate America through the magic and power of stupid questions. Today's guest and his man meat. This is Jerry Moody. He's the CMO of Astrafuse. Yeah, look at that. Gorgeous.
Thank you, good sir. I appreciate the compliments, but no, thanks for having me on. I think that a lot of times people today they get too caught up in the hustle and bustle of making money, which is fine,
Yeah.
but the relationship, the communication, and just being a genuine human being these days is so important. And I think there's so many people out there that don't even know how to human these days.
I know, and I don't know why we act as if we're somebody else. I don't know that there's a study that goes, you know how you make money these days? Pretend you're somebody else. Pretend you're somebody that everyone's the same guy that we've all been pretending to be for 80 years. Be that guy, and you're gonna make a shit ton of money. Meanwhile, this chick's on OnlyFans making $8 billion a month. They've figured out another way. I think there's other ways, is I guess my overarching point.
Well, and it's 2024. Like shit's fucked up. Like have a good time, be a genuine person. Like that's how people want to see, people. They don't really want to hear about, your crappy opinions. They just want to have fun.
Yeah.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
speaking of, I think
So,
we're about to have fun with crappy opinions. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to cover the news stories of the day. I try to stay away from politics because LinkedIn is touchy about that thing. But before we get to the news stories of the day, I don't know if you know this, but every day in the United States is some reason to celebrate. It's not always Thanksgiving or Easter or Christmas. Some days it's National Roasted Nut Day or Cupcake Day. Today happens to be two things I want to talk about. National Happy Hour Day is November 12th. Here's the thing about happy hour. I live in Massachusetts where happy hour is outlawed. Happiness went against the court system and lost. Does that make any sense? We're already one of the most expensive states to live in. The bars and clubs close way too fucking early, and we can't even get discounted drinks. Isn't that ridiculous?
absolutely.
Oh my God.
Absolutely. So the best time to go to any establishment is happy hour. That's why they put it on the side of the wall.
Yeah, and it would
Right.
help establishments too because I'm definitely going to drink double if the shit's half off, and I guess in some way the math evens out. But I'm gonna eat more. I'm gonna stay longer. Once happy hour ends, I'm not gonna leave. I'm just gonna go back to buying full price drinks. So I just think it's fiscally irresponsible. And here's the thing: I did a little research. Evidently, happy hour was outlawed in 1984 in Massachusetts because some chick in Boston died of a drunk driving accident. That's horrible. I don't want to take anything away from that. However, there are 13,000 drunk driving fatalities every year. So it's like there's just inherently breakage if you're going to let people drink and also
I
let them drive. Sometimes they just combine the two,
I literally just talked about this today, and it's cause versus causation, right?
Right.
Causality, like deciding does this action really justify the causes? And I think that some people get on crusades.
I think so too. I did a little further research and I was hoping that it didn't really matter. But as it turns out, we have the third least amount of drunk driving deaths in the country, which is, I mean, maybe it has to do with this law. But here's the other thing. The legalization of psilocybin was just on the ballot this year and it lost. What the fuck is going on in Puritan, Massachusetts? Granted, we were one of the first states to legalize weed, but out of half price drinks, psilocybin and weed is a distant third on my list. Like I like party drugs. Weed is like, listen to Pink Floyd on the couch, which is fine for some people, but I'm holding out for medicinal cocaine and that probably won't get passed either.
Yeah, different strokes for different blokes, man. Different strokes for different blokes. But the mean little man always thinks they should tell you what to say. So
I know. It's outrageous. Here's the thing too about psilocybin. I'm not too broken up that it didn't pass because you can still get it. And also what's going to happen is what happened with weed, which is that scientists are going to get a hold of it and make it too good. Like weed from dispensaries is too good. I used to be able to gauge trash weed in college. Like I knew how much would get me like, okay, but still functional. Not this shit. This shit is very good, but too strong.
Well, I guess my thought process on it is like when you go back and you look at the actual medical benefits associated with those things, it really paints a different picture. Like even alcohol has its own use if you're using it for like surgery purposes or pain relief, like they used to back in the day when they probably outlawed,
Yeah.
happy hours. But even mushrooms, like they're giving it to PTSD people in Denver. And I live in Kansas, which nothing fun
Mm,
is legal in
mm-mm,
Kansas.
mm-mm.
Um, but the reality of the situation is you can't call like weed, for example. They used to call it Schedule 1, and it's like if you follow the laws, if you do what they say, like you kind of put yourself in a position where if you follow the masses and accept everything blindly, you're not really accomplishing anything, you
No.
know? And it's crazy like how much back talk there is, how much change and what's right and accepted and everything in society.
It's
But
bizarre too because like so I've realized, and it might just be me in this particular camp, but like psychedelics, specifically psilocybin, because they're natural, and there's a side that's pro psychedelics that is like for the medicinal purposes, and it's great. So I have another series where I interview authors of nonfiction books, and one of those was we did the whole demonization of psychedelics, and yes,
mhm.
it helps with people with PTSD and anxiety and depression. It also helps people like me who just want to taste colors and see sounds. So
Yeah.
like that's okay too. Just like with, I'm sure there are medicinal alcohol's great for whatever, but also just fucking relax at the end of the day. That's good too. So we just need to be honest about the substances that we're taking and why we're taking them, and then just calm the fuck down about it. I don't know. It's too it's weird. For the United States, a cowboy country, we have some real Puritan shit going on, and it's bothersome.
Well, and isn't it hard enough to get people to get out of their house right now as it is anyway? Like
Yeah.
everybody gets out of their house for happy hour. Look at Applebee's, right? They got like $1 Long Island iced teas and Applebee's on steak nights. Like you got to have something special these days to get people to go out because
Yeah.
money's tight.
Like getting out it's cost prohibitive to begin with, and then once you live in the most expensive state in the nation, like give us an incentive to go drink somewhere. Otherwise, industries are going to fail. We want to get drunk. Make it easier on us. It's outrageous. Here's the other thing. Usually there's some silver lining and shit. So happy hour started. This is a silver lining to war, by the way. So happy hour started in 1914 because sailors during the Mexican-American War, when they were just hanging out on their boats, they're like, how do we have a little bit of fun? There's not a lot of war going on. So they used to get smashed at around 5 o'clock, sing songs, and box each other. So when life gives you lemons, i.e. war, you make lemonade, i.e. happy hour. So,
It's nice to know some things never change.
Right. Isn't it? You can always go home. All right. We have to get to other shit, but today is also another national day that I wanted to touch on, which is National French Dip Day. I don't have these often enough. I don't think anybody has French dip sandwiches often enough. I think the problem is in the zeitgeist of sandwiches, this is an event. You can't get it to go because you got to dip it in the goo. But if you ever commit to a French dip somewhere, oh my God, are they fantastic.
It's like it's like if I go to a restaurant and I see they have a French dip, like it's what you go for, and you judge not based on the sandwich, but the dip they give you. Like that au jus is everything.
The au jus is everything. I went to a place. I had one within the past 3 months. They put like a horseradish cream on it too. So a horseradish cream, you got Worcestershire going, little caramelized onions, au jus, beef, cheese. It's always on a nice baguette. I mean, I don't know why this sandwich needs to be bigger. I don't know why in the zeitgeist of sandwiches. It's way, I don't know.
You might see this shirt and think like Jimmy Buffett in Margaritaville, but I'm really kind of a French dip guy at the end of the day. And no, I could always go with that and Philly cheesesteak, man. Like
cheesesteak is great. Yeah, I mean, this is why if the problem on the earth is cows, which it is, the farting's a problem, the amount of water and
farts.
Cow farts are a big issue. They take up a lot of land. It's very expensive. It's just we are not going to stop eating cows. They're goddamn delicious in every application. And you just named two of them. You telling me we're going to go away from French dips and Philly cheesesteaks? Zero chance.
No. And I live in the Midwest, right? So I live in Kansas, and you say there's not enough room. Trust me, there is. There's a lot of stuff.
Okay, we're gonna touch on this too. The lies of the media on both sides. This is so full of shit. But this is another life gives you lemons moment because the French dip was invented in California in 1908 at Cole's restaurant. Why? Because a customer came in with sore gums. So the guy was like, I got you. I'm going to invent a soft sandwich. And he did. And it's the goddamn French dip. So, I mean, without that guy's sore gums, deciding that, screw this, I'm still going to go get a sandwich. And then a chef that's like, oh, man, this guy's got sore gums. I got to figure out this problem. Look at what we have.
Yeah. Well, necessity is the predicator of innovation. Yeah, and the reality is, like people back in the day before air conditioning, they were like, "This shit's hot. Like, how can we fix that problem?" And
right,
and
now everything's comfortable. Thank God.
French dipped it. They French dipped it.
French dipped it. If nothing else comes to this show, the French dipped it should be the thing. French dipped it. Air conditioning, toilet paper.
Yeah.
Deodorant, French dipped it. Okay, let's cover some news stories. This is from our friends at the Wall Street Journal. Evidently, a new streaming customer has emerged, the subscription pauser. Customers have formed new habits of regularly pausing subscriptions and returning to them within a year. Then they did this chart about the most frequently paused subscriptions. Max from the bottom, Apple TV, Peacock, Paramount, Hulu, and the least amount of pausing is Disney Plus and Netflix. I've been with Netflix since the very beginning, the DVD days. I've never paused it, but I didn't know I canceled the rest of these shits. Here's the problem. If you look at these pricing models, Netflix is $15 on the high end, Hulu's $18 on the high end, Disney's $14, Apple TV's $10, Max is $10. Then you go to cable costs. Cable costs these days, this is not Northeast prices because I'm paying $300 something a month, but $40 to $145. If you look at the 80s, it used to be $8 for cable, and then people were all upset because it jumped to $16 by the end of the decade. In 2010, it was only $54. In 2015, it was $69. But God damn it, this to me, two problems. One, very expensive. Two, how do we have the time to consume this much media?
Well, so you can't even get an NFL live subscription for I think it's like $150, but no, I think that so I remember we had like an entire entertainment system with like a 200-pound TV and like 500 VHS tapes, and that was your streaming service.
Right.
Like there wasn't online capabilities, but a lot of this is because of the copyright laws and how everything is impacted. And then the other cause is, the bourgeoisie, right? So they own everything, but then there's competition within that. I honestly, I feel like anything that's consumable, especially these days when everybody's on their phone, I think most people stream from their phones and their tablets these days.
Yeah.
And that's how people are consuming media. But like people are bored. Like I don't even think like I have to write for my job because we write copy for our web pages and stuff. But I don't think most people even write outside of like their normal text. Like you and I, we do post. We have to be creatively offensive, as you say.
Yeah.
But in all reality, that's the kind of media that people want to digest these days is in your face video content, and that's all you get from these platforms, and they know that. Like where else are you gonna have some content streamer out there? Hell no. They pay these guys millions of dollars to make, out of every 10 shows, one of them's good. Like look, how many shows are like, the same old producers, right?
And it's so I rail against this idea all the time, and there's no fixing it, but it's like there's pros and cons to the old monoculture, and then what we have now, which is like I've never heard of anything. So for perspective, the average episode of Seinfeld in its peak got about 30 million people watching it. That's a lot of fucking people. The series finale of MASH had 105 million people. There's only 300 million Americans now. So that was probably more than half the population when it aired.
Oh, yeah.
Then I looked at the most popular shows on Apple TV because one of these people that they spotlighted in this article, one of these pausers, said, I only turn on Apple TV when new episodes of Shrinking, Slow Horses, and Severance come on. Fucking no idea what these shows are. But then I looked it up. Evidently, Slow Horses stars Gary Oldman. It has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I was like, maybe I should get back on Apple TV. But there was a time where everyone knew what everyone was talking about because there was sort of a monoculture. And now there's a time where people would talk about things. I have zero clue. I've never heard of it. The Severance stars Adam Scott. I find him to be delightful. I didn't know he had a show and that it was on and it's good. That's crazy. But how am I supposed to know? There's a million things. And really, all I care about is sports. So,
right. And I honestly, there's What We Do in the Shadows. That's one that I just came across.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
It's like, it's just like random shows that you just come across that you've never known about. But like, there's just a lot of content out there these days.
It's way too much too. And here's the thing too. I don't want to interrupt. Like we're in marketing, so you do this like sort of persona thing. So I'm almost 44. White male in Massachusetts. Nobody would go, you know what he's going to do? He's going to, as soon as the Patriots win, he's going to consume every fucking piece of Patriot content. But when they lose, he's going to ignore it entirely. What he's going to do is go on YouTube and watch retro reviews of Attitude Era WWE pay-per-views and retro reviews of shitty video games on YouTube. Other than that, he's going to ignore all other media, which is what I do. With the exception of the Celtics doing the same thing. Celtics win. Every piece of media, Celtics lose. I pretend they don't exist.
I do
even our job as marketers, Yeah, there's no way you could produce. They want to reverse engineer and go, you know what, this guy likes explosions and boobs. Yeah, but man,
I mean, they're not wrong. They're
they're
not
not
wrong.
wrong. But now I have all the porn available on my phone, so I don't need like boobs and movies anymore. You know, like it's shit is moving so fast, and there's so much of it that it's just impossible. You just have to throw shit against the wall and hope it sticks.
You know, that is a really good point. I mean, there comes a point in time where there's like information overload, and
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, like I was watching a movie on November the 5th. Ironically, it was V for Vendetta,
Mhm.
and that's one of the things that they highlight on that movie is like when they start overloading you with content, like telling you that everything's bad in the world. That like that's when they start to control your mentality. But even then, like even with TV and diverse ideas, like they found a correlation associated with people who watch like murder mysteries
Mhm.
and crime shows and the amount of crime they thought existed in society.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So you gotta take everything you hear with a grain of salt, obviously. But I think that the overwhelming it sucks to say it as a marketer, but all the ads that people see really do have an impact on their life.
Of course, Jaws is the classic example of this. Before Jaws, people didn't really fear sharks. They were just big fish with big teeth. They killed about 70 people a year, which they do now. Post Jaws, we kill 300 million sharks a year. And if we
Hmm.
hear that there's a shark attack, we're like, fuck it, we got to kill more. It's
Oh
because
yeah.
it's fear, it's manipulation of the data. It's crazy shit. Here's the other thing too. It's going to be so interesting to see these next generations because I bring my son to all the Marvel movies and he gets antsy. He can't sit through 2 hours. So like we had Disney Plus. I have an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. They can't sit through movies because they watch YouTube Shorts, which is a precursor to them getting on TikTok. Like if it's longer, I know we tell it's a trope at this point that nobody has any attention span. But I sit my kids, they cannot sit and watch a movie, which is like watching movies is a big fucking deal when I was a kid. I not only just I'd watch them 8,000 times. I've seen Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. Oh, I don't know, 10 billion times. Total Recall, anything with
What
Arnold in it. Oh,
like I told you, I saw Billy Madison no less than a million times.
I've watched.
You know what I mean?
We're going to talk about Billy Madison, but I really do think it's the greatest American movie of all time, and I don't think it's particularly close. I go, The Godfather. Fuck The Godfather. Have you seen
But
Billy Madison?
well, no, no. Everybody's seen Billy Madison. If they don't, they've lived under a rock. I'm pretty sure it's on the free streaming services, so you can be on Pluto and watch Billy Madison. Like, get out there and watch it. You don't sit on your ass and not watch Billy Madison. You get out there and you watch fucking Billy Madison.
Exactly.
Uh,
Do you remember when there was a time when we bought an iPhone and it was preloaded with the new U2 album and everybody hated that? They need to take that concept, but every phone needs to be loaded with Billy Madison. I just think the world would be a better place.
they did have a banger on the Windows Live songs that was like preloaded, and I don't think anybody knew that it was there. Yeah, it's funny the way that works. But just kind of going back to your point about like focus and clarity, like to bring another awesome movie into it is Basketball. Like the
Oh,
whole concept of that movie is people have an attention span that's like 8 seconds long,
it's
and
true.
like it just seems like it was true back then, and it's even more true today. So like maybe in the next 20 years, people's attention span will be like 4 seconds. You know what I mean? Like a hook is going to be like a half a hook.
I don't know what to do anymore. But then it's weird because it's like we came from a generation. It's post my generation, but Harry Potter. These books are 8,000 pages long. There's 22 of them, and these kids sat down and read it. So maybe it's not. Maybe the content just sucks. I don't
It,
know, or it's built for like okay. A big critique of mine of 70s movies is pacing. They're very fucking slow. And you probably go, well, that's because you're a millennial. No, not really. I'm born in 1980, kind of Gen Z, but like watch a movie from the 80s. They fucking move. Spielberg, E.T., like Jurassic Park, when we talk about like that shit moves. So I think there's a balance between, what's too slow, what's too fast. Not everything has to be Infinity War, but,
right.
shit needs to, progress.
Well, and that I don't know if you're a Rick and Morty fan, but they say that
Yes.
everybody follows a story cycle.
Yeah. Oh, that's that episode on the train, that thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so true though. And this goes back to what I'm saying. Like in my opinion, all the best shows are made by the same people. Like look at Mike Judge, right? Mike
Yeah.
Judge, American classic. But like the reality of the situation is that every single story that you'll watch follows the same path. It's just some people tell that story a little better than others. Like I'm a huge Tarantino fan.
Yeah.
I love Pulp Fiction. Everything. Like all of his movies are just gold. Kill Bill, like
Yeah.
the cinematic way the trilogy's built. Like it just builds up action until the end where they inevitably solve, you know, the crescendo of events. But like until you reach that point, like you can tell storytelling as a whole has kind of hit a plateau, you know.
It was bound to, because there's just so much of it. It all happened so fast. Technology made it easier to make. So, like, I don't know. We're gonna run out. We're going to run out of ideas. We have. It kind of sucks, but we need. I mean, it beats living in 1812 and hoping a piano gets delivered to town. You know.
Yeah, well, not even Frank Sinatra wrote his own songs. Like, let's be real.
Neither did my boy Elvis. Is right over there.
Yeah.
Oh, right behind me too is Book of Mormon. Trey Parker and
Oh, yeah. So another fan of excellent culture. I love that.
I was just thinking about this when you said Mike Judge. I was like, holy shit, what? I mean, I'm an atheist, but the odds of me being 13, 14 when fucking Billy Madison comes out, Beavis and Butthead is huge. South Park, I had the VHS cassette of the first thing they did, which was the Santa versus Jesus thing. And that was like, oh, I showed all my friends. It was like, this is fucking unbelievable. So, yeah, I don't know. All right, we got to get to your things. I did want to talk about another banger from the Wall Street Journal. 23andMe has laid off 40% of their staff. They shut down their drug development business. So
they need a better affiliate marketing program. That's what it is.
I'm going to send them this episode, and if they don't hire us, I'm going to be like, listen, guys, they were worth a few years ago $6 billion. They're worth essentially zero now. So this is just another round of layoffs. They've had 5 rounds since 2023. They used to be up to 800 employees. They're down to 300. That is not a lot. So I know this sounds weird. Go ahead.
You know what it is? You know what it is, right? Now everybody's afraid to be an immigrant. Nobody wants to take a DNA test.
Oh, that's an intro. Oh, there you go. Could be it. That could be it. There's a lot of reasons. That one didn't cross my mind. One of the things they spotlight, though, is that for most people, you just have to take it once. You take the DNA test, they tell you everything that you need to know, and then you're sort of out the door. They tried a subscription model. Now, I did Ancestry, and they're always trying to push. Like, I logged on today to see if there's anything new. They're like, you're probably a night person. I was like, so this is the subscription. They just want to tell you new shit, but it doesn't matter anymore. You just want to find out if, you have any kids out there. That's another thing about this. I mean, we could talk. There's a lot on the table here with 23andMe. One of which is, let's go back to the drug thing. Years ago, they mapped the human genome and they came up with CRISPR. So I thought that the human genome was going to be used as a diagnostics tool. I'm going to go to the doctors. I'm going to say, hey, could you take a look at this? They're going to, oh, you're going to get cancer in 2 years. Let me CRISPR that out of you. Bada bingo, bada bingo. As it turns out, that's not happening. There's a million. I asked ChatGPT why, and those are the 10 reasons right there. Complexity of biology and translation from genetic findings to therapies. Blah, blah, blah. Can we speed this up?
That's rookie numbers in this bullshit. They can do that.
I would think that socioeconomic disparities, there's socioeconomic disparities, everything. Food, entertainment, housing, clean water. Like, that's not the excuse.
ChatGPT, you don't understand socioeconomic disparities. Don't gaslight me.
Don't pretend, exactly. Don't pretend like we've let that get in the way of anything at any point in the history of mankind. Cost and economic considerations. That I gotta believe in, because if you cure these things, a lot of doctors are gonna be out of business. Here's another thing too, though. So I'm not going to talk about it on air to protect the identities, but me and my me and my immediate family found some wacky ass shit because we've done like real fucking crazy shit. It has it like not close enough to me that I cry about it, but like, oh my God. So this dude in the bottom right-hand corner, he found out that his son wasn't his son because he just, I'm going to do 23andMe, did it. And then he was like, honey, turns out you fucked some other guy. Now, luckily, it was just a swap at the old IVF thing. They used the wrong tub of goo. Supposedly. But there's...
Allegedly,
yeah. Mm-hmm. I think, we'll see. Anyway, they're hugging. I guess they made up. But this is...
That's stock, bro.
That is a stock picture that blew up the whole family. Just like it almost did to mine. But there's a lot going on here, don't you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't honestly. I feel like I'm such like a Heinz, 47, 57, maybe 67, 87 of different cultures and ethnicity. This is again. I'm going to go back to this. We've only been counting years since 2024 years. We've actually counted. And I'm not a hugely religious person either, so I'm gonna assume there's more years than that.
Yeah.
Like, who knows where my family's been? Who knows what my family's done? It's gonna be one of those things. I don't really care where I came from. Like, well, there's like those songs from like the early '90s. It's like, we're people of the world. Like,
yeah.
Yeah,
I-
Michael Jackson had one. I believe, was it like black or white? Doesn't
Black or
matter. It's
white.
your
Yeah,
breath.
the first
Like
video
who?
to use morphing technology. Yeah, that was a big one.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Always on the edge of technology, that guy. But yeah, I think that a lot of the reason, in my opinion, that this didn't work, probably, and they're laying off so many people, and you can't really develop. I mean, there's like a bunch of things going on here. But have you have you ever been like? Just take this for an example. So say you get a microwave from your parents and it's from like the 80s. That shit
Yeah.
don't break. You only
No,
buy
never.
it once.
Yeah.
You know, like iPhones have kill switches in them. Like it's public common knowledge.
Oh yeah, they get
Like
progressively worse with every update, and then you got to go
yeah,
buy a new one. Yeah.
exactly. And the whole reality of the situation is if it's not sustainable and it's not like regenerable, like and this is why they build houses crappier than they used to. You
Oh
got to
yeah.
build the audience. You got to, create urgency, right? It's like that's why Cheetos are so addictive.
That definitely ties into 23andMe, I think. I know, I think you're onto something. Here's the other thing too, is like it was a novelty, and then like who gives a shit? Because my grandfather's father I never met. He's directly responsible for my life. But
Hmm.
like just because we share DNA doesn't make it inherently interesting. Plus, they're doing this weird thing where they keep updating the shit. So in Ancestry, when I first did it, I was something like 95% Irish. I was like, oh, that's vaguely interesting. And as they keep doing it, I get less and less Irish and more Mutt-esque. And I'm like, all right, so I really have, just like everybody else, I have no identity. Nothing matters. I'm here now. Let's move on. I,
Exactly.
I think in the future, though, this might be a little interesting because, like, I probably won't meet my great grandchildren, but if they do this right, they'll be able to look me up and see my old MySpace account and start to
Yeah.
get a little bit, like a digital history of who I am. Might be vaguely more interesting. They still won't care because they'll have the attention span of a gnat. But there'll be like there'll be some history there, like a little shitty biography of who I was and what I was listening to in 2003.
I guess what I hope, and as a Rick and Morty fan, you'll appreciate this because I was watching it the other day. It's the episode with the death crystal, where
Oh
like
yeah,
he lives his life in expectation of all the bad things. So he dies old, and at the end of it, like it wouldn't have mattered anyway because that's not what he was seeing. Like
yeah,
if they tell you everything that's ever going to happen to you, are you going to stop having fun? Are you going
no,
to stop eating French dips? Are you going to
no,
stop going to happy hour?
no. That's
Like
why this idea that we're in simulation theory or we're in the Matrix. Okay, great. Who cares? Like, what the fuck? I can't get out of it, even if I know that I'm here. So, like, just
it would be nice to learn kung fu.
yeah, would be nice, but without the effort.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody wants to put effort into anything
No, I mean
anymore.
we could learn kung fu, but I don't want to sweat on other dudes. It's
Yeah.
weird. All right, one more story. This is from our Boys of the Week, which I find to be the greatest magazine of all time. I think everybody should subscribe. Evidently, there's a huge cost of food waste. This is centered around England. The UK throws away an estimated 10.7 million tons, there's too many letters in that, tons of food each year, which is enough to fill Wembley Stadium 10 times. Oh, well, 11 million people in the UK, including 3 million children, are food insecure. I ran some numbers. As it turns out, the average American eats a ton of food each year. So 11 million food wasted food,
That's
11
a lot
million
of poop.
hungry people. You could eat
That's a
like
lot of poop.
American.
Yeah.
What makes this truly enraging is that only 40% is edible. But they're saying that it's a moral failure. It's an environmental disaster. Then I looked up, I go, England can't possibly have the most food waste. And obviously China and India have more, but they have more people. The United States is also complicit in this. And then I asked ChatGPT, I said, listen, ChatGPT, we got all these hungry people. We have all this extra food. What's the problem? And they say it's infrastructure, logistics, there's economic factors, a lack of
Socioeconomic.
socioeconomic, which they're right. Because here's the thing, there's no profit motive to feed hungry people, and there's no profit motive to help the environment. We did a story a couple weeks ago that made me feel a little bit better. Here's the thing, there's no real profit incentive to get away from the energy infrastructure we have, except AI needs so much processing power that places like Apple and Amazon are creating little tiny nuclear facilities in their offices that are very clean, very efficient, producing a shit ton of power. That's great. That's the only way we were going to get away from the system we had, is if it made a lot of financial sense. In
Hmm.
this case, it's easier just to throw the food away and not hire people to distribute it because nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives a shit. I just think it's interesting. We have all this extra food. We have all these hungry people. It would seem, 1 + 1 = 2. Never.
I worked at Walmart when I was in college, and that's one of the things that I saw. You literally hauled off all the crap and threw it in a dumpster instead of like feeding the hungry people. I'll never understand the socioeconomic value of throwing food away.
I won't either. So we just got a new refrigerator delivered yesterday. Speaking of things with built-in obsolescence, I've seen refrigerators from the 70s they're still alive today.
Exactly. You only buy one fridge.
It's crazy. So my wife went through the process of like looking at all the expiration dates of everything that was in the old fridge because we're moving into the new fridge. And some things like mustard, she was like, this expired 3 years ago. Hey, fucking mustard doesn't go bad. But part of this thing is like the stigma around leftover food. I swear, man, I thank whoever, science, I've never been hungry. But if I was, I'd take an expired sandwich. You know, like this stigma, like, I know I'm homeless and cold and I don't have a place to go, but I will not eat left food that was donated. I just don't.
The Best Buy thing is all made up anyway. Like if it smells okay, like everybody's drank milk that's like a week old.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not bad until it's bad.
When it gets chunky, it's a little exciting, you know?
Texture.
Almost
It honestly, it does surprise me that like a smaller country would have more waste than us, right?
It's conceptually bizarre. I guess Germany is also big on leftover food. Here's the other thing too about like or food waste. It's hard. So I'm a family of 4. I got a wife and 2 kids. It's hard to predict what they're going to eat every week. I do all the grocery shopping and all the cooking. Some weeks they're really into this thing, so I buy it, and then they're not anymore. So we throw that away. It's like, okay, and then expound that out to a larger scale. People that are stocking grocery stores, they probably have the same kind of issue. So it's just like I don't know. Humans are complex creatures, you know?
Consumption culture.
Yeah.
But apparently not enough. You need to consume more. But the crazy thing is, like, food seems to be cheaper in a lot of other countries other than here in the United States. So, like, why are they wasting food? Like, go buy
I don't know.
Like,
exactly. We can't afford to waste food here anymore.
No.
Here's the other thing too. Like, okay, I mentioned this earlier. The fear mongering on both sides. We did a story a couple weeks ago about how people they don't need hardwood anymore. But for years I heard, oh my God, the cross cutting in Brazil and all the rainforest and all they're doing is destroying. And now all of a sudden they're like, if we don't cut down trees in Appalachia, everyone's going to be out of a job. Then it's like, overpopulation. We don't have enough for everybody. Then, underpopulation. There's nobody to do the jobs. Not enough food, too much food. It's like they fear monger to the point of absurdity. And it's just
right.
So,
and I guess the rationality of it, and mind you, I don't live in California, but they used to clear cut like a mile sections of the forest just so if there was a fire, it would stop.
Oh, preventative maintenance. That's
good. Yeah. But then you'd actually have to get out and do something. But between the cost of lumber and the cost of goods, like you would think that if you implemented these small policies, that would actually benefit, like, I don't benefit people. It's kind of a
somebody. It would definitely benefit somebody.
But you got to figure out where to use things and how, and sometimes you got to get a little creative with it. And I think a lot of times people get caught up in this idea and not the action.
Of course. I mean, it's just way harder. I do want to touch on one more thing too about consumer culture. I think the last 100 years really are the golden era of consumer culture, because for so many years, the only thing that gave you dopamine hits probably was sex. Like food, you dig up a root vegetable. You don't have salt or butter. You just eating to survive. There's no entertainment. Sitting around a fire and telling stories about the stars. I'm sure that didn't really, it's best you have. But for so long, all you had was sex. Then we had this weird period where, like, I'm sure a lot of housewives, I don't want to stereotype, were getting laid by, the classic milkman or the whatever. As long as they were the same color, you had plausible deniability once the baby came out. But then when this shit came out, all of a sudden it's like, well, this doesn't make a lot of sense. So luckily that generation died largely right before shit hit the wall, because there's so many stories now. You're like, what is this?
I don't know if you've ever heard the statement, the less I know, the better. I'm a firm believer. That's probably for the best for that generation.
Exactly. I'm glad they're all gone, because your secrets are out, baby.
Yeah, exactly. And it muddies it even further. Like who's gonna know where you come from, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now, oh boy. All right, let's go. So now this is where we try to humanize corporate America. I asked you who your 3 favorite bands are, what your 3 favorite movies are, and what your 3 favorite books are. You're an overachiever because you gave me about 800 of each. So I had to pare it down because the show's only an hour. So I went with, first, right off the bat, your boy Maynard James Keenan. This was the Wikipedia picture, so I pulled it. I know he doesn't always look this weird. Why do you love our boy from Tool in A Perfect Circle?
Well, the last time I saw him, he was wearing like a helmet.
Oh,
Yeah, so you couldn't see his face. It was in Kansas City, but no, he's a smart guy.
he
His
is.
lyrics, yeah, his lyrics actually say things. I think a lot of time the music that people listen to doesn't mean anything, and his bands that he always plays with are amazing. Like, so I've seen A Perfect Circle, I've seen Tool. I listen to Puscifer and everything. So like I like the mindset. It's the same reason that I like South Park and
Mm.
everything that goes along with that. I Yeah, it's just a great genre of music.
Somebody call it. So what I like to do is generally like there's bands that are sort of hated in the zeitgeist and liked in the zeitgeist, and I think Tool is pretty well respected. So I like to ask Reddit, why do people like things or why do people hate things? Somebody called his bands metal for smart people, and I was like, I think they nailed it. I think that makes a lot of sense. Plus, he's very well rounded. He served in the army, and then as soon as he got out, he went to a school for art and design. He's gonna like. I listened to some Puscifer, which I haven't before. It's a little Frank Zappa esque. I mean, the guy's fucking smart,
He's diverse.
accomplished.
Yeah, diverse. He okay. So another fun fact about me is I like to homebrew. So I make wine and meads and beer and stuff. So
Huh.
Maynard, he decides that he wants to go start a winery. So he goes and does it. Like, that's so cool to me because I'm the same kind of crazy in a lot of my thought processes, that I'll just go do something if it sounds fun to me. And the fact that it's kind of aligned, like, I would love to sit down and talk to him about his ideas and thoughts and mentality associated with like why he does what he does, why he says what he says. Like, you know, there's just so many things in his songs. Like, you talked about hallucinogenics. He has
Mm,
Rosetta Stoned.
mm.
He's got all these songs that are just like humanizing. He talks about the missing link of humanity. You were talking about, 23 and Me. There's just a lot that goes on to good music that actually has substance.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can go on AI tools now. I use AI tools, make silly songs. They don't mean anything. Whereas like the stuff he makes is art.
I think what
So,
happened with me and Tool specifically is that it came out when I was in college, and I needed some job rule at that point. I'm doing keg stands and playing beer pong all the time, and Tool was just a little like when I listen to Tool now, which I did for the show, it's like, this sounds like the background of college, but I wasn't listening to the lyrics and I didn't care about who was singing it. It was just sort of like passive. But this has been, I think, 2 or 3 people have put him on the list now. So having gone through his catalog a few times, like, now I understand why people like him.
yeah,
Just
just smoke some more, weed. You sit down, eat some mushrooms, and then listen to some Tool.
yeah,
It'll
that'll
make
make
a
a
lot
lot
more
of sense.
sense. And
Okay.
and the bands that he has behind him, like every single time he makes a band, it's like some of the best musicians out there. Like, just go listen to the bass lines.
Yeah, the guy goes for it. I mean, again, Army, School of Art and Design, a bunch of different bands, wines. I mean, he's a Renaissance man, which I think is missing these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, your
Absolutely.
second band, somebody recommended to me, and I'm not sure who. I couldn't remember. They're like, you got to hear Cocaine Jesus. So that's how I know who Rainbow Kitten Surprise is.
Yeah.
What I also found fascinating is that they have 2 trans members. Trans people only represent 0.07% of the population. So to have 2 in the same band, statistical anomaly.
Yeah, we would call that statistically significant. Yes.
It is an anomaly that makes it significant. Yes, 2 is quite out of 5. Shocking.
Yeah. Well, and
Anyway,
they do a completely different genre of music, but that's why I gave
mm,
you like sort of
yeah,
spectrums, like between like I like that stuff, but the same reason that I like Maynard is the same reason that I like these guys, is because of the lyrics. I don't know, you listen to Cocaine Jesus.
I did. I watched the lyric video, and I listened to their top 10 on Spotify too. So I'm a
Oh
little
yeah.
I'm okay versed.
Okay, verse. Yeah. Yeah. I and obviously the tonality and the music kind of follows along with it. I did mention some others in the same genre. Kaminsky's another good one. Yeah, there's just a lot of musical synergy that comes along with lyrics that kind of make you in
Mm.
that mindset where it really hits you hard. That's one of the reasons why I mentioned this band.
You are a lyric guy, and I'll say this about
Mhm.
Rainbow Kitten Surprise too: is they have a unique sound, and I don't mean that in a like in the placid way sound. Like I don't think they sound like anybody else. They have a very
Mhm.
in totality, the lyrics, the music, which is tough to do because they're making music today. Like it, just when you think we've done everything, Rainbow Kitten Surprise.
Exactly. Well, I don't know. I also prize creativity. I think that it's kind of a creative genre of music.
It is.
It's not
Speaking of,
mumble rap, unfortunately.
it's not mumble rap. Oh, what a perfect segue in terms of what creativity and the lack of mumble rap. So I had to pick something. I did Eminem. The reason I did the two pictures by the, I, every time I do a band that I listened to in college and then I see what they look like now, I panic a little bit because I know I'm close to death. Like that, the guy on the left is who I know Eminem to be, but then I see him today, I'm like, oh my God, we're so fucking old. Oh, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna
It,
die.
it, it's another theme. Some things change, some things don't. Like you change, you grow up as you get older. If you're like a well-adjusted human being, hey,
I
to
know.
be realistic, that's one of the things that I appreciate about Eminem. And I don't think his albums are to stay relevant as a lot of people think. I think it's kind of an embodiment of how he's changed and grown as a person. Like people interpret things however they want. I'd like to see them go out and do an iota of the things that Eminem's done with his career.
Yeah, I know shit.
But he's one of my favorite rappers because when I was like 11, which is probably the wrong age to listen to Eminem, it was one of my sister's favorite cassette tapes. Now I don't know if a lot of listeners know what cassette tapes are, but you put them in a tape deck, and it was like the 90s Slim Shady where he's talking about all kinds of different crazy shit. And I mean, he's still like this last album, he like brought back a lot of it. It's like nostalgic. And it's like I can only imagine somebody who's lived the kind of life that Eminem has. And I mean, he's still a pretty wholesome guy if you think about it. Like he acknowledges that he makes mistakes. I think that's important as a human being.
Yeah,
And
no, it is.
the evolution of his personality, he's just a real person. He's like, yeah, I like drugs. Yeah, I
Right.
did too much. Yeah, he's got an addictive personality. Everybody knows that. But it's just the fact that people can change, even if they're like unique individuals. I would say Eminem's a very unique individual, just like Maynard, but in a different way. I just appreciate that about people. You know.
That's interesting. So in my experience, I think I had like waves of music and I was really into it. So I got into 80s hair metal very young so I loved Poison and Motley Crue, into Guns N' Roses, which I don't think is technically hair metal. But anyway, then it was like that 90 to 94, whereas fucking like Nirvana, Dr. Dre, and Doggy Style with Snoop, and the Black Album from Metallica, and then fucking Radiohead's first album. And then college came. And I know it sounds dumb to say, but like Limp Bizkit was the first time anybody really heard rap and rock together. And then Linkin Park, and then Eminem was totally different than the other rap that was coming out at the time. So I had the Slim Shady LP on disc, and I graduated high school in South Korea. We were done with that tour. I'm an Army brat. We moved back to the States, but we did 2 weeks in Hawaii, and I listened to that just fucking, speaking of the way we consume media, like there was a time when you would listen to the entire album and it was done, you'd listen to the entire album again, and then you fucking, and so that just feels like a specific time and place. And the way he rapped was so interesting and unique and, white, which was weird. It was just, you didn't have a lot of that shit. Like white rappers up to that point were a fucking joke. Snow and, Vanilla Ice. And then you have a guy who's good at it.
Marky Mark. Funky
Yeah. So
Boy.
this is like the first legitimate white rapper. And it was weird, and the shit he was saying was out of, like, you would have to be like, have you heard this, and then make somebody listen to it. No, it is just fucking magical. It was odd conceptually, I will say. His beefs were never as like, okay, so Tupac and Biggie, obviously that was bad, they had both ended up dead, but he would talk shit about like Limp Bizkit and the Spice Girls. I was like, yeah, that's good, stay in your, don't get shot.
Well, and that's another thing. Like in society today, you should be able to acknowledge, like you gotta eat shit sometimes. You can make fun of people as long as it's lighthearted and you're not being rude and mean about it. And like
Yeah,
even if you are, like grow up. Like shit happens.
I think he's
Don't take
right.
it hard.
I think the joy of Eminem too is that he stayed in his lane. He never, and he's fucking him. He's beefing with Machine Gun Kelly. I was like, yeah, that's perfect. Just don't die in any fucking gang wars. We've had too much of that.
Right.
All right, let's do some of your movies.
Rip Biggie Smalls. Rip.
Speaking of death.
Yeah.
All right, so again, I had to cherry pick some of your movies here because, well, I didn't for the last two because they're meaningful to me. But American History X.
Yeah. This is I don't know how many people have watched this Ed Norton movie. He's like a great, like an amazing actor, but like
Yes,
this seems really relevant right now.
it
You know
really
what I mean?
does.
And I mentioned this movie in kind of a series of movies because of the way that it's kind of counterculture. they're cult movies. I mentioned like Pulp Fiction in line with this one, and it just kind of like highlights this attitude that a portion of I mean it's a very large portion of America probably that feels this way, and they treat people this way, and then it takes like a rationality. I'm a firm believer that people don't understand anything until it actually happens to them. Like
Oh, 100%.
you could explain things a million times to somebody. It doesn't matter until it hits home. And what I love about this one is kind of the transformation of the character, and it's got a lot of my favorite actors and actresses in it. So it's just a
Yeah.
great movie.
It's one of those things where, the thing I say is you could read about how to catch a baseball, but until I throw one at your face, you're not going to figure it out. Like you just have
Right.
to do it. And that's that same thing. It was weird too, because this reminded me, I always say the 90s were the last great decade. There was so much going on in terms
That's
of
how
race
you know you're
relations.
getting old, by the way.
Yeah, no shit. But in terms of race relations, I was like, everybody was excited about Black Panther being a huge black superhero. We had fucking Blade. And then if you look at race relations, like everybody was watching the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Martin and In Living Color. And then you had the Latin invasion. And it just seemed like race relations were better in the 90s. But then you think about, Rodney King and all this fucking shit. They're like, oh, in the riots in LA. And then, maybe it wasn't. It's just revisionist history. But I think this brings you back a little bit. And this is like, this shit was happening and prominent, and so much so that they made a movie about it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Here's the other thing too. Ed Norton's such a great actor, and Edward Furlong is such a trash actor that the juxtaposition, like Furlong, love Terminator 2, love that. He's terrible, not an actor, awful. So it was just a mistake putting him there with Ed Norton because, oh boy.
Right. Well, it just highlights how great Ed Norton is.
Really does. I thought he was a great Hulk too. I wish that worked out. Okay,
agreed. I agree with that.
I thought it was good. We're gonna talk about this. Adam Sandler is an American treasure. I don't think anyone has informed my view of comedy more than Adam Sandler. And it started pre-movies. I loved him on SNL, and then his album, They're All Gonna Laugh at You, the CD. There used to be a thing called comedy CDs, and you would listen to them, and they were funny. That came out in 1993 when I was in 7th grade, and that was another set. Like, we got it. We all fucking copied it to tape, passed it around, laughed our asses off. And then Billy Madison comes out, and then Happy Gilmore comes out, and it's like, geez, this fucking guy's a comedic genius. He's worth $420 million. Seems like a good dude, family guy, gets all his friends in the movies, signed a huge deal with Netflix. Like, I don't know, man. I don't think he gets the credit he deserved, probably because he's a goofy, schlubby kind of guy, but success after success after success after success.
Women love goofy, schlubby kind of guys, right? Nobody wants to be serious all the time. Yeah, like I say, I talk about my family a little bit. They always, like, my sister had like a total crush on Adam Sandler, and it's just like, I feel like a lot of women at that time did, just because he was funny. Like, you got to embrace the fact that people want to laugh. People want to have a good time. I think Adam Sandler does it, and it doesn't hurt that he was on the podcast with Travis Kelce and Jason, and he just seemed like he'd be a Chiefs fan, and that's great because I'm a Chiefs fan, and it's good to see people that you've watched your entire life support your choices in life. It's great.
I am a Patriots fan, and the Chiefs are definitely the new Patriots, and it hurts my soul. I don't want him to get 6. Just get 5, because I don't want to count the Tampa Bay one.
I understand now. This is the thing. This is exactly it. You never know until it happens to you.
Exactly.
Like, now I get
Isn't it great? Isn't it fucking
thing.
amazing? Like, you just blocked the game. You were going to lose. They were going to kick the field goal, and then you block it. That's exactly what the Patriots would have done during our 20-year run. Oh, my God.
Well, the difference between the Patriots then and the Patriots now is the Patriots then actually gave effort, and that's why the Chiefs win these days.
Well, I think a lot has to do with maybe it's effort, but also having the 2 greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. I think that really helps. I got to tell you.
That's true. That's true. Just like, in Happy Gilmore, he's the greatest golfer to ever hit the ball.
Of course.
Like, you shoot him, McGavin. Go eat white dog shit. Like, for real.
Shoot him, McGavin. Oh, my God. And
he eats dog shit for breakfast. Did you know that?
You eat shit for breakfast? I just... Adam Sandler is a national fucking treasure. Big Daddy's hilarious. The Wedding Singer's great. Billy Idol's comeback. Oh, he will never go down as one of the greatest comedians of all time or one of the greatest comedic actors of all time, but he should. He should, for a certain generation of people. He was everything, and that was kind of fun.
People who think the 90s are the greatest generation, he's a hero to them.
Him and Jim Carrey, that was like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. They're like, oh my God, they keep coming out with unbelievable shit in a very cut. Like Jim Carrey, he doesn't get the credit he deserves either. Dumb and Dumber and The Mask and Ace Ventura, and they just kept coming out and coming out and coming out. This is another thing I could do fucking 10 hours on. The death of the comedy in movie theaters. It used to be an event. These guys would make a comedy and you go, oh, we got to go laugh in public. It was great. And now those don't exist anymore.
You know, that is a great point. What's the last comedy movie that's really been created?
I'll tell you, the last comedy movie I saw in the theater was Superbad, and that was in 2007, and it was fucking great. The
classic, but
Superbad's fucking, yeah. And then the three greatest movies I've ever seen in the theater because of the crowd reaction was the first Jackass, Borat, in South Park, Bigger, Longer, Uncut. The audience was unglued. They were just fucking laughing the entire time. And like that used to be a thing we did together, but they don't make comedies anymore that go into the theater, so we don't do it anymore, and that sucks.
Yeah, but that's life, you know, the evolution of streaming culture, as you mentioned it. You know, it's more about pandering these days than it is, you know, being unique.
Well, I will say we went through the whole cancel culture thing definitely did not help comedy. I'm pretty left, but like woke isn't funny. Like I don't want to get too political, but like you're not allowed to be woke and laugh at shit. And that really hurt us. So the only good thing to come out of the next 4 years where the country dies is we can laugh again.
Well, and I'm a big Dave Chappelle fan, right? So I watched, you know,
I describe myself, as a matter of fact, as a Dave Chappelle liberal, which is, I think, you know, he's a black dude married to an Asian chick. He's very progressive, but he also laughs at stuff. You're allowed to laugh at things and make fun of shit. It's just, you just can't.
Can you imagine somebody making like the Chappelle Show right now, or even like a show like Boondocks?
No,
you know, like
no.
it would never happen. It would never happen.
It would never ever.
It's just because people can't take it anymore.
And what happened in society where you're like, you know what I hate is laughing at stuff? Can we stop doing that in totality? Can nothing be funny anymore? And they're like, oh, finally, I hate laughing too. You know what I like? Being offended. Yeah, let's all be offended. Hold hands.
Well, it's like I feel like comedy really blew up after like World War II, right? People needed something to laugh at. So it's like in bad times, the best thing to do is laugh, right?
That's why I think these next 4 years, anyway, personally, is going to be great because
yeah.
Let's move on to Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell sort of doesn't affect me the way Sandler did, mostly because I was so upset when they moved out the Sandler, Rock, Farley, Rob Schneider cast of Saturday Night Live. Ferrell was that next thing, so I was automatically like, yeah, fuck this guy. But Elf is a perfect movie, I would say.
It's a great movie, but I don't think it's like quintessential. When I think of Will Ferrell, like Anchorman's like a great Will Ferrell character. His Step Brothers, you watch that probably at least once a month and be okay with it.
Wow.
Old School is a great role.
Old School was the one that opened me up. I was like, all right, this guy's funny. I can't, because that whole crew did a bunch of those fucking movies. And I was like, all right, if I'm going to like comedy, I just need to stop with this weird thing I'm holding on to.
And like the other guy.
Oh, the other guy was shockingly funny. I went into that expecting nothing. And I was like, oh my God, this is great.
And that one that he did, was it Daddy's Home? Is that one with Mark Wahlberg?
Mark Wahlberg. Oh, the other movie, like Talladega Nights, has appeared on this list a couple times, and I avoided it just because I hate fucking the idea of NASCAR in general because I'm Northeast elitist. But then I watched, which is weird because I love Sacha Baron Cohen. The fucking movie's great.
Oh yeah. Another national treasure is Sacha Baron Cohen.
Oh my God! Well, he's not our nation. He's somebody's national treasure. I think we should adopt him as our own.
I've adopted John Oliver. We can adopt him too.
Okay, good. Yeah, come on over. Will Ferrell too. I just watched his documentary with his trans friend. He's a very sweet guy too, I will say. I think he's Sandler-esque in that I don't get the sense that they're a lot different than their personas. That, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think anyone's ever going to say they had a shitty run-in with Adam Sandler or a shitty run-in with Will Ferrell. I think they seem pretty down to earth, and maybe that's naive of me, but that's the sense I get.
Yeah, I would like to believe that all the people on my list are people that you could actually relate to if you actually sat down and had a conversation with them.
Yeah.
And I mean, because I'm, like I said, I like lyrics, I like words, you know, stuff like that. And it's what makes people creative these days. And, you know, comedy is the ultimate creativity, I think.
I think comedy is too. I think it's the hardest thing to do, and I don't think that gets credit. All right, let's move on to books since we only have 6 minutes. Michael Crichton, holy shit, what an accomplished guy. He has a MD from Harvard, decided not to pursue that. Then he goes and writes the Andromeda Strain and fucking Jurassic Park. If anyone's ever heard of that small mom and pop novella. Congo, like the guy crushed. It's unbelievable, and it
Well,
sucks that he's dead.
well, they have his. You have the timeline on there. Timeline. They made a whole show about that. I hope he's getting royalties somewhere. Like
Yeah.
seriously. No, I like Michael Crichton. He's just a smart guy. He seemed like a very smart guy, and the way he writes stories, it's not quite so predictable. So
Mm.
like the
Genius
Andromeda
level. I
strain.
mean, first of all, he's a fucking MD from Harvard, which automatically has to be one of the hardest things in the world. And then he creates. I don't know. Have you ever seen the Netflix series, The Movies That Made Us?
I have not.
First of all, every episode's goddamn amazing, particularly the Jurassic Park episode, because it really is like, oh, Dave Chappelle said the mark of greatness is when anything before you, anything after you bears your mark and anything before you is obsolete. That's sort of Jurassic Park. And this is like, I often talk about the Jurassic Park moment. Thank God it came out and I was able to have it in theater. Up to then, you kind of looking at stop motion. You see
Mhm.
Jurassic Park and it's fucking perfection and gorgeous. And these days, any kid is used to CGI. Everything's amazing and gorgeous. But to see that for the first time, and then that's just how Hollywood did things moving forward. So it was really like life before Jurassic Park and life after Jurassic Park. And
Oh
this
yeah.
guy, this MD from Harvard who writes novels,
Imagined it.
it's
You
insanity.
imagined it.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, in Congo, all these
oh my
books
God.
that you put on here are just amazing. You could talk about these for an hour apiece. Like they're just amazing books, and like who would have thought about Jurassic Park before him? But it might date me. I was about 6 years old when the first time I saw Jurassic Park, and my parents thought it was just a movie about dinosaurs. Like
Oh.
that's the funny part. And it just I didn't know it was by Michael Crichton when I was 6, but I'll take that loss.
Years and years or layers and layers of genius, because what you have with Jurassic Park is a genius who wrote the source material, a genius who directed the movie, and then if you watch the movies that made us, you have this one guy, because they didn't want anything to do with CGI. He knew Spielberg was coming into the office that day, so he just put on the short clip of Heat and he made sure it was all the monitors. And when Spielberg goes, "What's this?" and they was like, "I told you that's how we should do the fucking dinosaur." And then that's like and then as soon as he saw that, everybody in Hollywood is like, yeah, as it turns out, this is how we should do everything moving forward. So amazing.
Did you? Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. Did you know they painted the Q-tips for like the Star Wars movie and put them in like a box of Q-tips to pan over? Movie cinematics before CGI. You had to actually use creativity.
I
It's just
know.
amazing.
It is
This is
amazing. The shit
amazing.
they had to do is it's bad. All the blood was chocolate syrup and stuff. Like, oh my God, what happened? All right. Oh man, this is your boy here, huh? Robert Jordan. He wrote this. Okay, this goes back to the idea of the Harry Potter thing, which is like, yeah, okay, people
I was
have
a huge Harry Potter nerd too, by the way. Yeah.
short attention spans, but then you get into these book series, and I'm sure all these books are long, and there's a million of them, and like you read one and you got to get right into the other. Is that how this shit works? Because I'm a nonfiction guy. I don't read fiction, but I'm fascinated by people that read these long series of big ass books. That seems to be what you do.
Yeah, well, these were series before, or these were like TV series, but before TV series.
Mm.
It's like a movie in your head.
That's what books are. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Ah.
had nothing better to do as a kid. We didn't have cell phones. I read a ton of books, and I got started with these books when I first got into high school, and then I just continued reading them. I was a voracious reader. Like I read, you mentioned Harry Potter, the last one came out when I was about 14 or 15. I read it in like 36 hours. It's like a 700-page book.
Wow. That's
Like
commitment.
well, no, I just didn't have anything else to do, and I have ADHD. It's a good way to focus.
You want to speaking of Harry Potter, this is I'm the oldest of five. One of my best like big brother moments is my middle sister. She's a doctor now. Huge Harry Potter fan. So anytime a new Harry Potter book came in, I'd steal it from her and read the last page out loud, which is real dickhead move. Like it's good, right? As far as like
Yeah,
as
well,
far
might
as
as
good
well.
like shitty older brother things to do.
Well, you're like, hey, he didn't die in this book. That's a
Oh, the
good thing.
Dumbledore death was huge for me. I don't know how I figured that out, but I made sure to spoil it for her.
Oh yeah, well, I'm proud of you. That's
Yeah, thank
exactly
you.
how you should treat your little.
Yeah, that is classic Big Brother shit. I'm just happy I was around. All right, we don't have much time, so let's just talk about your last book series real quick. Again, you kind of you broke the system here a little bit by going with authors instead of individual books, but I like that you thought outside the box, outside of that book. Tell me what
Yeah.
you love about this fella.
The best part about this guy is the way that he writes mysteries. Harlan Corby has a series about. I don't want to ruin the whole book story, but it's like he's like a sports manager, so he has a bunch of athletes that work under him, and they have all got little quirks, right? So he'll go and it's Marlon buying tour. I don't know. It's one of those things. Anyways, just an amazing book series with a lot of twists and turns, and he just writes really well. I like his writing style.
These prolific authors blow my mind because, like you said, okay, we write because we own marketing companies, but like, what do we write? Nothing really. These guys, like, book after book after book, idea after idea after idea, success after success. I mean, it's really fucking remarkable, you know?
Yeah, you're only as good as your next idea. That's what they say.
I know. Do you think that these guys are writing their books, or is there a pool of shitty? I think like Jodi Picoult. Like, I've heard things that there's a bank of writers that write. Are these guys really? Are they so stylistically good that nobody else could write their shit?
I like to believe they just have a really good idea and it spins off of that, but you never know. I think that a lot of people probably send them ideas too.
It is one of those things like, don't meet your heroes. Let's just pretend that if we meet Adam Sandler, he's going to be a great guy. Let's just pretend that Harlan's writing his own shit, because otherwise, what do we have besides that?
Well, okay, so Adam Sandler is a good guy. He showed his puppy on the Kelsey's podcast, and he's just the sweetest little bulldog. Like,
That
just
did it for you?
People who own dogs can't be bad people, especially if the dogs like them.
You know, I used to believe in that, but you know who loved dogs? Hitler.
That's a straw man if I ever heard one.
I'm just saying, I'm more of a cat guy. You know who didn't love cats? Hitler. Well, listen, I think we killed an hour very productively. Do you want to do a little elevator pitch about Astrafuse before we go?
Oh, sure. We're a lead generation performance marketing company. We own and operate a bunch of sites. We're primarily focused on like solar, home improvement, other home improvement aspects like roofing, windows, bath. Anybody who is driving traffic, like internet traffic, on social media, YouTube, or anywhere else, if they see this and they want to make money, just hit me up.
Nice. Moneystacks Moody. I mean, with a name like that, what else could you possibly do?
Well, hopefully make money. It's important these days. This is 2024. We all got to make money.
No, listen, everything's expensive in Massachusetts. There's no happy hour. I'm paying full price for every single drink I drink, and I'm a borderline alcoholic. So
when you can't, you drink whiskey, right? It's got to be like $80,000 for a couple fingers. You know,
$80,000 for a shot is the going rate at most bars in Boston. I would stay in Kansas if I were you.
Yeah, you can afford a whole bottle for that here. It's great.
I lived in Kansas for 1 year. We were stationed at Fort Leavenworth. So I lived wherever that is. And culture shock, I got to tell you. Well, I went, here's the thing. Leavenworth didn't have a military school. So I had to go to school with the Kansasians. They were big into four-wheeling, the normals.
Oh, yeah.
Four-wheeling. What the fuck is
that? You just kind of drive. That's what I was telling you. Like, there is space for cows. Trust me. We four-wheel on it.
I learned there's Renaissance fairs and four-wheeling. You get plenty more of grazing area.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but we're more like than it seems, though. So don't ever let people tell you that you couldn't come here and have a good time, because you probably could. Yeah, you just get drunk and party. That's all you do.
Which is, that's a good time. That's really all you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and cow tipping, like in Tommy Boy.
Cow tipping, good times. That's what we did right after graduation. Yeah, all right, we're going to log off the live. Can you stick around in the green room so we can talk a little bit more about Adam Sandler and the like?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, listen, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow, America. That guy also has an interesting list. No Sandler, though. I know, I'm disappointed. Anyway, have a lovely Tuesday.